Tonight on PhillyCAM Voices, we have 3 in-studio interviews produced by the fellows in the Community Journalism Mentorship Program. The Community Journalism Mentorship Program is a 6-month-long program where participants receive training in media production and build a portfolio of journalistic video pieces produced for television. Our guests this evening are Rosaline Pichardo, founder of Operation Save Our City; Muhammad Abdul-Hadi, founder and owner of Down North Pizza; and Kimberly McGlonn, PhD, founder of Grant Boulevard and Black Ivy Thrift. Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to PhillyCAM Voices. I'm your host, Sheila Lorette Emerson. Jamie Oliver sits down with Rosaline Pichardo, founder of Operation Save Our City, to discuss how she is trying to stop the violence in Philadelphia and its surrounding areas. Welcome to the studio, Jamie and Rosaline.
Thank you, Sheila. Philadelphia's activist and founder of Operation Save Our Cities, Rosaline Roz, created a volunteer organization that supports homicide families in the time of need. Other activists and community outreach organizers have given her applauses for her activism here in our community. In 2022, Roz was invited to witness the president sign the bipartisan gun control bill. She has suffered tragedies in her life due to gun violence, from surviving an attempt on her own life to losing both her boyfriend and brother to murder, as well as losing her twin sister to suicide. Roz has taken her tragedies and used it to drive her activism here in Philadelphia and the surrounding areas. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us how your organization helps the family in needs here in Philadelphia?
Yes, so we support families on solving murders. There's a lot of things that we do to help get the word out when it comes to awareness and $20,000 reward and really like walking the beat wherever the murder happened. So we ask a lot of questions. We do a lot of rallies. We support families if they need help with burials. So many different things that we support families. I also worked at one of the busiest trauma centers in Philly, so I'm able to support families that way too.
Nice. What are the areas in Philadelphia your organization is primarily focusing on?
So we're all over Philly. However, Kensington, the 19134 zip code, has an uptick in violence. So that seems to be my primary location now, currently, and because I live there too. So between the opiate crisis and the gun violence, it seemed to go hand in hand. So that seems to be my target area right now.
How are you guys helping the DEA sponsor drug education programs for at-risk youth?
So the DEA started a program, including myself in this program, the first ever in the DEA Foundation, where they allow a harm reductionist to be part of their programming. I was introduced to the space after reversing over 2,000 overdoses. Nice. And just teaching people how to reverse an overdose, but also bring awareness within the community and what it looks like in the setting with the youth. A lot of the kids that I work with have like parents who are in active addiction, so we know that the war on drugs is not a thing. Mm-hmm. So we literally have to meet people exactly where they are, whether it's the people who are living on the street, but also people who are living at home who has like a parent who's in active addiction. So we can't like say this is the end, the war on drugs. There's no such thing. Yeah. So, there I am working with the DEA, who knew? But yeah.
I could dig it. Since you started your organization, have you seen a difference in the communities that you've been focusing on?
Well, you can't really put a number or anything or like the amount of folks, but what I can say is navigating through systems like homicide and suicide that families don't even expect. They don't even know where to start. So being able to navigate that system and show them, how to even get to the ME's office and all of those things. So it's been it's hard to put a number on it, but I can say it's been a lot of families affected by homicide. Currently, we have 100 homicides in Philly, and the rate that we're going to supersede 500. So I'm hoping that we can be more effective.
For the last question, what can a person like myself, how can we help out, and who can we contact to help in your organization?
So my role is to really, one, train folks on how to administer Narcan, two, how to stop the bleed if someone is stabbed or shot. So how do I teach folks in the community to do those things? Because it's going to happen, unfortunately. So how do we save a life before they get to the ER? How can we stop the bleed? So they can reach me at 856-745-6045 or at operationsaveourcity@gmail.com.
Okay. I'm going to sneak one in right before we quit, okay?
No worries.
So I did a little research, and I saw that you produced a documentary called Hello Sunshine. Can you briefly tell us a little bit about it, since we have time?
So Hello Sunshine is a documentary that I was a part of. Joe Quent is the producer, and Nancy Bargan is the executive producer. And it just really shows the life of an activist and an advocate, and as a survivor, and what that looks like for me, and how I decided to turn pain into power and not be the one that, this is the saying that people says that hurt people, and I didn't want to be that person that hurt anybody. And I also wanted to reduce stigma with those in active addiction. So I just started calling people Sunshine, because I didn't know anyone's name.
Got you.
And for many years, that's just what it was. If I don't know you, you're in active addiction, and I see you the way that I'm going to address you. It's like, hey, Sunshine, how can I help you? So that was it,
That was nice.
That was the name.
Oh, I really appreciate that.
Okay.
I wanted to say thank you for stopping by Philly Voices and just shedding a little light on your organization. And I hope to talk to you soon.
Yep, we'll do.
For our next interview, Rachel K. Godfrey sits down with Muhammad Abdul-Hadi, founder and owner of the mission-driven restaurant Down North Pizza. Welcome to the studio, Rachel and Muhammad.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Muhammad is the founder and owner of Down North Pizza, a restaurant on a huge mission. Their goal, to provide formerly incarcerated individuals with fair wages, new skills, and a stronger community. In addition to work, Down North Pizza assists its employees in fighting other barriers returning citizens often face, such as housing, legal representation, and transportation needs. After graduating from West Philadelphia High School in 2006, Muhammad took an interest in business leadership. In 2018, he graduated from Temple University with a degree in criminal justice and law enforcement administration. In 2021, DMP opened its doors to the public. Welcome, Muhammad.
Thanks for having me.
So I want to start off talking a bit about you. What Philly neighborhood did you grow up in, and what did growing up in that neighborhood teach you about culture and community?
So I'm originally from West Philadelphia. I grew up on the infamous 52nd Street. As a child, I used to run up and down 52nd Street. So for me, that culture of community and the sense of community that was established very young with me and neighbors, and just being in the neighborhood and just having that camaraderie with individuals in your neighborhood. Growing up, we didn't have much, but we had each other, and that was something that growing up was really the fabric of just me developmentally growing up in West Philadelphia.
Yeah, and it seems like that's something that stayed with you through
Yes,
the years.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Even though I'm in North Philly, I'm from West Philly.
Yeah. So what attracted you to the idea of using food as a tool for community restoration?
Pizza in particular is a universal language that everybody speaks. So for me, if we want to start having these uncomfortable conversations with individuals about these issues like the carceral system, criminal injustice, how can we get there? What is the vehicle that can take us there with the least resistance? And for me, it was pizza, because the fact that everybody speaks pizza, that we made a good enough product that we can start to open up these conversations on the injustice that the criminal justice system has.
And I feel like everyone has, like, food pathways are so interesting to think about because everyone has a different relationship with food, but it's not often you hear someone talk about something like pizza and not have a positive reaction to it,
Yeah, pizza, and even with me growing up, the reason why we do the square pies, because of the nostalgia of just growing up and having that square pie, whether it be at lunch growing up or whether it be like the Elio's pizza that we used to have growing up in that white box. It wasn't great pizza, but I mean, that was all we had, at the time. But popping that in a toaster oven and just, enjoying that on a Friday evening, like, it's something that I remember throughout my childhood. So it was very intentional about having a square pie.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And no offense to Elios, but Down North wins. And then what's the importance of Down North Pizza being located in Strawberry Mansion?
Because for me, I saw Strawberry Mansion as a big, with a lot of opportunity for somebody to go in there, because I look at it like essentially like a blank canvas. Because looking at the atrocities that the neighborhood has been enduring for forever, and looking as Down North to be like the beacon of light for that neighborhood, to jumpstart some positivity in the neighborhood where there's a lot of the negative press around. Strawberry Mansion, for one, it being the, having the highest murder rate per capita within the whole entire Philadelphia. So for me, I think it was very important to put something in that neighborhood that was enriched in positivity, so that we can potentially uplift the neighborhood from within, with the individuals who have been in the neighborhood for so long and enduring all the pain that the neighborhood and the external circumstances brought to the neighborhood.
Yeah. And how has the Strawberry Mansion community responded to Down North?
Oh, the Strawberry Mansion community, they responded great. The response we've been getting from the community and this from the city as a whole, for me, taking a risk, because when I was developing the concept and the idea of Down North, people thought I was crazy of thinking of putting a restaurant in Strawberry Mansion. And I believed in it, and I believed in, the team that I, put together, because I'm not a chef, to take me to the promised land, take us to the promised land. So for me, it was, I was very passionate about it, and, being a serial entrepreneur, I've always seen value in hiring individuals who've been formerly incarcerated. When I was in construction, my whole team that built the actual physical building was formerly incarcerated individuals. So not only did we employ it, the actual construction of that building was by a team of individuals who was formerly incarcerated as well.
Yeah. And a bit earlier, we talked about building a business model that isn't predatory and that makes people feel safe and supported and want to come back. And so I wanted to know if you could speak a little bit to how your team found you and how they've stayed with you through all this time.
It was a lot of word of mouth for me, and we've been open for going on 3 years, and we have the same exact staff that we had when we opened. We've created an environment that's conducive to growth, and these individuals that work don't have to live in no shadows. They can be their true, authentic self. And I feel like when you're your true, authentic self, the opportunity for growth is limitless. So seeing, people actually able to not only just work at the shop, but actually get their life back on track, because at the shop, we like to take the holistic approach. There's one aspect that you're working in the shop, but there's other things that may have been put on hold while you were incarcerated that need to be taken care of as well. So that's the very reason why we only open 4 days a week too, because I feel like these, they had to take advantage of the days to also have family time and other things that, that they may have missed out for years just sitting in a box.
Yeah, and that's so rare to have a workplace that is thinking about you in a holistic sense, like not just what's happening when you're here, but when you leave, we need to know that you're still supported too. That is rare, and that is amazing. So another question is, if you had to offer advice to a young person who's really interested in going into business, or who just has a passion and they really want to use that to nourish their community, what advice would you give to them?
I feel like if somebody wants, because for me personally, I feel like we're as Blacks always driven into, by nature, we love helping. So those are the type of industries that we choose to get into. And as we know, the people that are always helping are not the ones that are being taken care of. So, for me, when I see people that are anxious and, this enthusiastic about helping, and I always want to tell them that, I want you to focus on yourself first, because pouring from an empty cup is not a good feeling. And I think a lot of us, when we're in this helping, it's very lonely, and it's very, it's so much because so many people need so much that the focus initially should be on yourself before you're able to pour into others. So I think that's very important to people who want to get into these type of businesses and want to do things like that, that they need the focus should be on themselves and self-care and self, things like that, because that's very, very important, especially doing this type of work.
Yeah, absolutely. Muhammad, I just want to say thank you so much for coming to the studio today, for taking some time to sit with us, and for the work that you're doing. And then really quickly, if you, anything that you want us to know about Down North Pizza.
The location, 2804 West Lehigh Avenue, come see us. You come, to the shop, you get to see, the employees, you get to see the smiles, and you get to see like the environment that we built. Because once you walk into that building, you feel it.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
For our final interview this evening, Angelica Sanders sits with award-winning social entrepreneur and educator Kimberly McGlonn, PhD, to discuss moving communities forward through mission-driven business and sustainability. Dr. McGlonn is the founder of B Corp businesses Grant Boulevard and Black Ivy Thrift, CEO of Build It Boldly, and co-host of the podcast School for Disruptors. Kimberly is also a councilwoman in Montgomery County. Welcome to the studio, Angelica and Kimberly.
Thanks so much, Sheila, and thank you so much, Kimberly, for joining me today. I'm so excited to sit down with you and talk more about all that it is that you do. So my first question is, you mentioned Grant Boulevard, Build It Boldly. You've recently added Black Ivy Thrift. Can you tell us, there's a lot that you do, but can you tell us what's at the core of it all?
I think that what's at the core at it for me is an extension of what I was doing in the classroom, which is thinking about how can I build things that inspire people to reconceptualize the moment that we're living in and put it in perspective with the history of this country and what we have to consider as we imagine what the future, has to respond to.
Absolutely. So you worked in a classroom and you've had your experiences, and now it's just all coming together through lots of different projects, but now we get to see it. So thank you for sharing. So when I think about, I first met you and learned about Grant Boulevard, right?
Yeah.
And at the surface, Grant Boulevard is a fashion brand, a store to buy cute clothes, you know, it has a great vibe, but it's a lot more than just that. Can you tell us more about the mission and vision of Grant Boulevard?
Yeah, you know, I founded Grant Boulevard in 2017 before I really even actually fully understood what my role in the fashion industry would be. And I really was thinking about, I had just seen Ava DuVernay's documentary 13th. I had just come back from traveling by myself to East Africa and spending some time with groups who were supporting elephant orphan populations who were, you know, kind of figuring out how to survive with encroachment. And I came back and started thinking about, you know, given what I was coming into a consciousness about, how could I set up a way forward for us, a new kind of blueprint for intersectional business design, right? So businesses have to put profit as a driver, but oftentimes what happens is thinking about the planet and thinking about people gets pushed to, you know, secondary, tertiary considerations. And that's a part of the reason why we have so many complicated crises now that we have to navigate. So Grant Boulevard uses fashion as a vehicle to get people who, like me, are shapeshifters, who, like me, aspire to be luminaries in the world, you know, offering, you know, light and optimism, a way to dress in alignment with their values and their own vision for what has to be, you know, more important. So, you know, as we think about, you know, what the future of the company looks like, it's how we're redefining luxury in a language that says those of us who have the means to take care of other people and the planet, we can do that through how we shop. And that we can define a new sense of legacy in wearing garments that will be an heirloom to our kids of our values, right? Not just the moment in fashion, but also who their parents, their grandparents, their aunties, what we cared about.
Right. I heard you say putting the people and the planet first, and I think that that's something that, you know, you stand on through the brand, and so, you know, we definitely appreciate that. Now, when you're talking about putting, a lot of people think about putting the planet first, you think about sustainability, right, environmental justice. So can you tell us more about sustainable fashion, like where Grant Boulevard kind of falls into this category of sustainable fashion?
Yeah, you know, sustainability has been a conversation that for so long was dominated by people who we're going to suffer last when it comes to the impacts of climate catastrophe, and going to be the first to create actually gross damage. Mm-hmm. And so as a Black woman in design, for me, it's about thinking about everything from our packaging to our mailing to how we're thinking about sourcing fabrics, right? And offering our consumers a variety of fabrics that we know the story of those fabrics. And then what makes us really unique is that in addition to being sustainable, we're really committed to producing locally. We are a company that wants to show up uniquely for Philly. We cut and sew in Philly, we sell in Philly, we want to put Philly first, and we want to give the city a new point of pride in terms of what the maker community is doing and how the future of making actually is being funneled right through this longer story of Philadelphia as a textile center for the world.
We appreciate that. Now, not only are you committed to better ways of making clothes, and you think about that in the way that you produce clothes and being local and all those things, but you're also committed to working with marginalized communities. Can you tell us more about that and how it aligns with the brand?
Yeah, you know, when I thought about building Grant Boulevard and thinking about Black Ivy Thrift as an extension of how I think about what commerce can offer, right? So Black Ivy Thrift is a vintage thrift concept shop that's interested in curating garments from the civil rights movement, right? So the fashion of the civil rights movement. Mm-hmm. Both of those are about stories of thinking about who has always been so central to social movement in America. And when I think about hiring or even collaborating with photographers, I'm always thinking about how can I include folks who maybe identify as trans or queer or who are differently or disabled. How do we make space? And that space making also includes folks who may or may not have had any personal impact or even secondary, tertiary impact with the criminal system. So I think that the way forward is when we make room for everyone to be treated with dignity. And for me, that means being radically inclusive in terms of who I'm trying to intentionally make space for.
That's amazing, and it's real complex. And like I said, you know, you think about fashion and being cute and all this stuff, but then at the core, there's, you're doing some great work and impacting lives.
And we all can, right? We don't think about what we wear and who we shop from and how much of a difference it can make, but we can challenge colonialism. We can challenge the climate crisis if we take our power as consumers and become more conscious.
Yes, and that brings me to my next question. A lot of times some people think that, being more conscious, shopping sustainable is going to come with a cost.
It will.
Can you talk to us more about that cost, but also, why it's so important?
Yeah, as a global economy that's so rooted in the extensions of slavery, we really don't know the true cost of very much at all. Right? And when so much of our supply chain is rooted in not paying people, under the era of American slavery, anything, and now under this era of globalization, very little, we don't actually know how much things cost. Mostly what we pay for is actually marketing, right? So the fashion industry, for example, has a 200% markup. So whenever you're buying that $5, $6, $8, $10 shirt, which I understand, convenience, rising cost of living, those are things we have to consider. We have to be mindful that we want to be careful to not be participating in systems that we think we are actually inherently against. So for us, we aspire to pay $20 an hour. When you come into Grant Boulevard, which is opening soon on Penn's campus, you'll see how much we're charging for labor. You'll see how much we're paying for fabrics. You'll see how much we're paying for our markup. And I'm hoping that conversation about transparency will give people a better sense of why shopping with us and paying what we're going to have to charge to give people a better quality of life, why it's worth the investment.
Okay, thank you for that. Because, like you
real.
said, people
It's
are
real.
going to be looking at price tags and all that, but it's good to know, what's behind all of that. And so can you share with those who are watching how we can rethink our day-to-day to better contribute to a more sustainable future?
Yeah, I think so much of it is thinking about the habits of our grandparents, who were figuring out how do they reuse something, how do they repurpose something, right? Thinking about what are you bringing into your home and who made it and where it came from. Oftentimes reducing our consumption is going to be really important when it comes to thinking about the future of the planet. And that can mean shopping at thrift stores and bringing home things that were used once before, or, reducing, how far you go to get what you need. How can you support what's local to you?
Kimberly, you have so much to share. You're doing so much, but we only have so much time. Can you tell people where we can find you and where we can learn more about what it is that you do and, how we can better contribute to the world around us?
Absolutely. You guys can find us on Penn's campus at 34th and Walnut. That's where Grant Boulevard is going to be opening on Earth Day this year. You can find us on 36th and Lancaster at Black Ivy Thrift, and you can find us online at www.grantboulevard.com and blackivythrift.com.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This was great.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode. Look out in the coming months for more stories from the Community Journalism Fellows. You can also watch our show on YouTube and Roku. And follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We'll see you next time.